So, what is the LPT? I can't believe I have to make a video like this because the same people who don't know what the LPT is, are the same people that are constantly running it. But I'm making this video to, one, clarify what it is, and two, so that people can understand that it is a formal issue or a supposed formal issue. Okay. So what is the LPT? We can make this very simple. Just using the identity operator as it is standardly ran. We use Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as constants and God as a constant. So we can represent that just with F, S, H, and G. And we say the Father is identical to God, the Son is identical to God, the Holy Spirit is identical to God. And by transitivity, if you have an identity operator there, and X stands in relation to Y, and Z stands into relation to Y, then X stands in relation to Z, which means that if you use the identity operator, it forces equivalence relation, because that's how the identity operator functions. Then that means that it collapses the Son into being identical with the Father. The full formalization should be up on the screen there so that you guys can understand that. If I'm going kind of fast through that, I apologize. But what's important to understand is that this problem has absolutely nothing to do with the content of the constants. And that's why they're constants, right? When we put the variable or the constants Father, Son, Holy Spirit, it doesn't matter if we put TCB for tree, car, boat, right? Doesn't matter because it's a formal issue. Doesn't matter what you name the constants as. And what does that mean? Well, that means that we don't have to answer questions like, why is the Father the Father? What makes the Son and not the Father? That has nothing to do with the argument, with the formalization of the logical problem of the Trinity. And what does that mean then? Well, that means then that for there to be a logical problem, we're saying there's a formal problem. We're saying there's an issue with the model. And to say, as standardly accepted in classical logic, Gödel's completeness theorem states that logical inconsistency means the inability to express a set of statements in a model, meaning there is no model that can express the set of statements. Which means that even if the LPT, let's say someone wanted to express or tried to express it using purely the primitive identity operator, unqualified, absolute identity, and let's say the conclusion did follow, it wouldn't follow from there that the Trinity is logically inconsistent. Why? Well, I'll throw it on the screen. Because logical inconsistency is defined as the inability to express it in any model. As long as there's a single model that can express the Trinity and the statements that are provided, there is no logical inconsistency. Just because there are different ways to express the Trinity also doesn't mean we have to give an answer to the best way to express the Trinity, because these are strictly formal issues. Say that again. This is strictly a formal issue. For it to be strictly a formal issue, and for someone to say that the set of statements themselves, the Father is God, the Holy Spirit is God, the Son is God, is logically inconsistent is to say there is no model that can express it. So, the logical problem of the Trinity does not prove that the Trinity is logically inconsistent, right? And the reason for that, again, is because all there has to be is a single model that can express the Trinity. Now, of course, this is constrained by certain axioms. Like when we're talking about the logical problem of the Trinity, we're saying there is a problem given the axioms in classical logic, right? And we accept that. For the sake of argument, we're saying, okay, let's run it with classical logic. The point is that given the classical axioms, all there still has to be is one expressible model of the Trinity. And there's multiple ways to express the Trinity, even without identity altogether, which is perfectly okay with standard logic, classical logic. So just for the sake of understanding, what has to be said there is not just that the Trinity is not expressible using standard identity, as people want to say, absolute identity. What has to be said is that there's no model that can express the Trinity, right? And if we do have a model that can express the Trinity, questions like, why are you expressing it this way as opposed to that way, have nothing to do with logical inconsistency. The point there is that saying the Trinity is logically inconsistent requires there to be no model that can express it.